We've talked about inert substrates, we've talked about active substrates, we've talked about dirted tanks, and we've talked about alternatives to active substrates. So what is my preferred substrate method? We're about to talk about that. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today, for the final episode of Substrate 101, at least for this portion, eventually there will probably be some extra, dabbled in Substrate 101s, but for the official series, we're going to talk about my preferred substrates based on my experience. You're going to note that I am going to talk exclusively on aquasoils or active substrates because that's what I prefer to use. I am going to give some caveats here. There are plenty of very successful methods of doing dirted tanks. There are plenty of successful methods of using sand or gravel and using things like root tabs in order to keep your plants healthy. I am not, in this video, saying that those are not viable solutions. A great example would be in the last video, I talked about Safety Zorb and how I plan on using Safety Zorb in the future for a specific tank I have in mind because I've seen tons of success with that particular product. Just like eventually we will do a mineralized clay tank. Even if I'm loath to do it because it's a long process to do it correctly. I've done a lot of tanks trying a lot of different active substrates. So let's talk about two versions of an active substrate setup, the simple version and the complex version, okay? You'll understand when we get into them, but based on my experience, these have been extremely effective. They follow a methodology that I have, which is that they use a mixture of substrates in order to get the benefits of all of them and to get some consistency mixing that helps with keeping plants down or keeping certain plants happy. So first off, we're going to start with the simple setup. This requires, in the large bag form, okay, either Fluval stratum, ADA Amazonia, or Brightwell Rio Escuro. Either of these three. Typically, I have found that Brightwell and Fluval for their volume are cheaper, so I tend to use those, but every once in a while you can get lucky and find somebody who's got a bag of ADA that they sell at a fish auction really cheap. Sometimes it happens. I've gotten lucky that way. And for each large bag, you're going to include one large bag of Echo Complete. Now, you can do this two ways. You can do the lasagna method, which is where you do layers of substrate. This particular tank behind me is using the lasagna method. It is Fluval stratum, Echo Complete, Fluval stratum. So there's a thin layer of Fluval stratum, thick layer of Echo Complete, thin layer of Fluval stratum. And I did that specifically because I knew the fish I was going to have in here and it was going to have lots and lots of crypts. And I wanted that layered system to help the crypts get a really healthy root system. Now, this applies to a lot of different tanks. I have also done Fluval stratum and Echo Complete. I've only more recently got into the Brightwell, and I'm going to explain why I really like Brightwell in just a moment. Where I just mixed them. I basically poured them all in a tank and used a big, putty knife, a plastic putty knife, and mixed them around, and mixed until it was like a cohesive mixture, as opposed to layered. And that was done in the Plants for Profit tank. You guys have seen the kind of growth that's come out of there and how healthy I can get the plants in there, especially when I have the time to maintain them. I really like this as a very simple, straightforward way to set up a tank. It's relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things because you can use Echo Complete to get you some extra substrate depth at a relatively inexpensive price because you get a good amount of Echo Complete for your cost. And in the end, if you get lucky, you can find big bags of Fluval stratum cheap. They do go on sale every once in a while, and you can get them for something like $20 a bag for the big bag, not the little bags. I think for a while, Walmart's had them, and then they stopped carrying them, and they sold them dirt cheap. So every once in a while, you get lucky, and some places will carry it, and they'll do it on sale. The same happens with some of the other stuff, like Echo Complete can go on sale and get really, really cheap every once in a while. Stuff like that. Just watch for those things and stockpile Substrate. If you're like me, like I have stockpiles of Substrate in my other room. Where would I use Brightwell over Fluval or Fluval over ADA? So ADA is going to leach the most ammonia. It is the most nutrient rich at the start. Fluval's kind of in the middle ground where it doesn't leach as much ammonia, but it does leach some. Brightwell has none. It doesn't leach ammonia. So if you need to be able to get your tank up faster, look at Brightwell. It's an ash-based product instead of clay-based, so there's a little teeny tiny difference there, but otherwise, I've been using it very recently. I'll be using more and more of it here soon. Big shout out to the guys at Brightwell. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a bunch of Substrate to play around with. For those who are familiar with my Chilatherina centaniensis tank, that was Brightwell. It was set up for a week before they showed up, and I never saw ammonia. Never saw ammonia at all. Those fish are happy as can be in that tank. And I was able to plant it right away. One single bag gave me all the Substrate I needed for a 40 breeder in their big bag, so they have a lot of volume in one big bag. Pretty nice. So it's just a matter of what you can get, which of those you can get. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other. It's whatever fits your price range as far as the aqua soil, and then pair that with Echo Complete. But you can layer it or you can full mix it. It doesn't really matter either way. Both are extremely effective. However, if you're going to have a lot more root feeders, a lot of crypts, layer it. Lasagna that bad boy. I think it's best to do it that way. You can put your root tabs down in deep to start. You can do one set of root tabs across the entire thing as a kickstart, and then from there on, because you have a high CEC substrate, you can just water column for it, and you get stuff like this. It looks great. It's simple. It's easy. No muss, no fuss. Let's talk about the complex version. This is going to get a little crazy. Okay. Number one, we're going to have a base layer. This is designed to have a deeper substrate layer. So I'm looking at 4 to 5 inches of substrate on purpose in this tank. You can either use a base layer fertilizing substrate like ADA's Power Sand. If you are going to do this, I generally suggest the Power Sand S or Power Sand M. Unless you're going to go a super thick substrate, like a really, really high back, then you could look at Power Sand L. And that's just they're literally the sizes, okay? Or a cheap alternative is to get the little like landscaping lava rock where it's pebbles that are about this big. And what we're using this for is to give us some space in the bottom to prevent any compaction in anaerobic bacteria pockets from forming. Also, in the case of using the lava rock, what we can do is jam a bunch of root tabs down in there because we don't have all the fertilizers built in like we do in the Power Sand, and we can mimic a similar effect to the Power Sand by doing this. Over the top of that, okay, I want a small amount of whatever our appropriate aqua soil is. Fluval stratum, Brightwell, ADA. Just enough to cover that cleanly, okay? Then over the top of that, I'm going to do a layer of Echo Complete with a small amount of Seachem Fluorite Red. The Fluorite Red is in there to give us laterite, which is an iron supplement. This is going to help us with things like crypts and all sorts of other red plants. On top of that, we're going to do a fine layer of grape leaves, which we've got. Get them out of their liquid solution, give them a light rinse, shred them up so that they're in little shreds, and just sprinkle them over the top. This is going to give us an extra iron source for a short period of time to help establish everything. From here, this is also where we put any of our extra root tabs. If we did like Power Sand, we would put a few root tabs if we knew exactly where like crypts were going. Otherwise, if we're in the lava rock, we have root tabs already. We're just going to ignore it. Now we're going to cap with our final substrate. This is where I would look at something like ADA powder type Amazonia, the Brightwell Rio Oscuro VF, the very fine, or you can use more Fluval Stratum. Whatever floats your boat in this case. You don't have to have the powder types or the super fine ones if you don't want to. I just like them because they're a lot easier to plant in, and this is where we get a nice, good, solid layer of substrate. That's going to be our final cap. Unless you want something decorative. If you want something decorative, now you can start looking at capping with gravel or sand. Sky is really the limit if you want to go super crazy with this stuff. Like I said, this is a little more complex. There's a lot to it. You could also mix in crushed coral if you're somewhere like Seattle, like me, where you need to buffer your water. I actually like doing this in a filter. So a tank like this is going to be something where I'm going to try and have a sump, and I'm going to have all my crushed coral in the sump, just so I can easily monitor it. And if I need to add more, it's just pour it into the sump. Easy peasy. You never see it in the tank. You get your calcium, and you get your water hardness to prevent pH crashes, because that will happen in the Northwest. If you have naturally hard water, you don't need that. Ignore it. Right? Easy. Why choose this really complex method over the simple method? Duration. The complex method will set you up for success for years and years and years. It's a little better for an aquascaped tank because it can build that heights which you need for that appearance. The big thing is mostly like the simple setup is something where I look at that tank as easy, simple. It's like this tank behind me. It can go for 2 years, it can go for 4 years, it can go for 5 years. It's going to be effective that whole time. That other tank I'm setting up, my goal is to have that thing run for 10 years. Now, fish might change, plants might change. That tank and that setup can last a very long time. The complexity is there so that when I establish those first plants, they're going to be extremely healthy. You're going to get explosive growth, and you're going to get a beautiful, dense tank like this quickly. And more importantly, that tank is a definite CO2 tank. The first simple version does not have to have CO2. It's going to do better with CO2, but it doesn't have to have CO2. The complex version, you definitely want CO2 because there's a lot of extra nutrients. You're going for big, beautiful, robust plants. And in order to do that, you want to inject CO2. That's it. That's my 2 preferred substrate layer methods right now. In the future, we're going to try a couple of other things, and we'll go in depth, and I'll give you like my full opinion on how they compare to these kind of things. And we'll probably have a small bonus Substrate 101 where I talk about those things in the future as we get some experience with a few of those other things. However, based on my current experience, which I'm 8-time Master Aquatic Horticulturalist of the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, I'll be 9 before the end of the year, maybe even 10. Depends on how much I stop slacking. I have found that you can have success with pretty much anything. I've had Echo Complete mixed with Fluorite Black. I've had just Echo Complete. I've had just Fluval Stratum. I've had just ADA. Like I've tried a full ADA system where it's got the power sand and then regular ADA and powder type over the top. I've tried a ton of stuff. And in the end, I've had the most success with the least work with that simple mixture. Right? And you can just see it on the tank behind me. Super lush growth. It looks good. And it's not very complicated. It's really easy to set up. It's just pouring some layers or mixing it up. Right? You can look at the Plants for Profit tank over time and just see the growth out of that thing. And I don't use a lot of CO2. So a lot of it just happens to be fertilizer, good substrate, good light. That's really the trick. That's the trick for planted tanks, guys. That's the secret. The real secret? Just understanding that little trio of information and letting plants do their thing. That's the real secret to being a master aquatic horticulturalist. But in the end, we'll probably have a tutorial on how to be one of those too. So, that's it, guys. That is the end of Substrate 101. I really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this series. Please, 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 if you have enjoyed even just one part of this, give it a like, comment down below. Let me know what was the best lesson you learned from the entire Substrate 101 series, or maybe what was the thing that surprised you the most. Maybe you didn't think I was going to go over dirt the way I did, or talk about alternative substrates, let me know in the comments down below. I'd really love to hear from you guys. As always, liking, commenting, sharing, that is the absolute best for the YouTube super magic algorithm. Freaking AI machines trying to take over the world. Hello, my computer overlords. Please don't hurt me. It super helps. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this and you're sitting there going man, why isn't this information more prevalent on the internet? Consider subscribing. That's the big goal of my channel, is to make sure that this kind of information is just out there, it's available, it's free. Because the more that we help our fellow aquarists be better, the better it is for everyone, and potentially the more people we can get into this absolutely phenomenal hobby. If you didn't like this series, if you can't stand that I would ever give away my secrets, how dare I? You will never do that to anyone. You can hit the thumbs down twice, you greedy. I can't. Hit thumbs down twice, go ahead. Thanks. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome. After video segment. Okay. Real quick. First off, the Rainbow Fish level, KB Ozzy. Big shout out to you, my friend. What can I say? Oh, guys, fine. I got some fish coming in. By the time you're watching this video, they're here. But by the time I'm shooting this, they're still coming. I'm super, super excited. And let's get some plecos. Cool plecos. Cool. I'm getting them from a really, really awesome guy on Aquabid. And you'll never know because I didn't bid on them anywhere on Aquabid. Oh my goodness, my dog. She wants out bad. She wants to run. Anyway, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this series. I was really excited to do Substrate 101. I know it sounds dumb to be excited over this dorky topic of talking about I'm gonna put my plants in some soil in my tank. I'm excited about it. But man, I really like talking about this stuff and sharing my experience, sharing my knowledge, and in some cases lack of knowledge. So I will fully admit, when it comes to a dirty tank, I do not have the level of knowledge of somebody like Father Fish, for example, right? Or, I definitely don't have the knowledge of Diana Walstead. She's an ecologist, after all. But that information is still super good to get out there to folks. And there's so many people that produce really great content out there who I think don't get a lot of love. One could argue I might say that about myself. No, I'm kidding, man. You guys are so wonderful that I don't care. This is my hobby, right? YouTube is my hobby on top of a hobby. Talking about fish into a camera and putting it on the internet is my hobby surrounding my hobby. It's like 4D chess of hobbies or whatever. What? Dog, what are you doing? She's over here. Come on, be good. Be good for me. Anyway, just really hope you guys have enjoyed this. Definitely want to hear from you down below in the comments. If you're a member, hit me up on the Discord. If you're not a member and you're sitting there going, wait, a Discord? Yeah, that's right. There's a members-only Discord. It starts at the Pseudomcgill level, typically, but I think you can still find a link lying around that will let you get in at any level, because human malware is a thing, and I decided that I was just going to open it to everyone for a while, and then eventually I'll lock it down. And it'll only be Pseudomcgills and higher, but once you get in there once, you're there forever. So you could literally be a member for 1 month. You'll get emotes and all sorts of badges and stuff for the live streams. Check out the live streams. Every live stream has a topic. Blah, 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 blah. Shill myself all day, YouTube. So I gotta have fun with this stuff, man. If I'm gonna do it, I gotta have fun with it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. But stay awesome. Seriously, stay awesome. Stay safe out there. Avoid that human malware stuff. It's real mean. It's real bad. It's real bad. Wait for somebody out in the comments. Take care, guys.